Two different people, each scarred by a painful past. Their story begins in the shadow of blackmail, yet, against all odds, love is set to blossom in the most unexpected and enchanting ways. The manhwa begins with a guy named Skylar who's perusing through pics that he shot of another guy named Chanil. As his usual routine, he uploaded the pics to his cloud account before retiring for the night. When morning comes, Skylar doesn't have much of an appetite, which makes his mother worried. She reminds him to take his medicine, which he hesitantly does. He says he's gotten better, but his words don't quite convince her. At school, the teacher is talking about career developments, but Skylar is preoccupied. He kept thinking that he made his poor mother worry again. When a classmate tells him that their teacher wants to see him, Skylar leaves, forgetting to log out of his cloud account. After a lengthy talk with the teacher about his somewhat lackluster math scores, Skylar is feeling a bit annoyed that he was also asked to run some errands. In their classroom, he approaches Cyrus, the class president, and hands him some papers. Skylar then proceeds to study in his spare time until someone snatches his attention. Instantly, Skylar's face feels warm as the person is none other than Chanel, his longtime crush. The latter asks him if he's free during lunch, hoping to get a photo lesson from Skylar. The blushing guy readily agrees, finding Chanel's earnest and bright personality cute and irresistible. The two have been in the photography club since their first year in high school. Back then, Skylar considered himself as an outcast and only Chanel would willingly approach him. Nowadays, aside from club meetings, Skylar occasionally gives his crush photo lessons during lunch break. Suddenly, someone calls out to Chanel. It's Cyrus, who reminds the guy that he had promised to play soccer with them at lunch. It turns out Chanel totally forgot, so he turns to Skylar in apology and asks for the lessons to be postponed. Skylar doesn't mind at all. In fact, he finds the new arrangement even better. Later, while the guys are playing soccer, someone is busy taking pictures of Chanel. The person, who's none other than Skylar, is pleased. That night, he looks at the pictures he took and realizes that Cyrus is in almost every shot with Chanel. Skylar thinks the two are close and remembers the two of them went to the same middle school. For a moment, he imagines himself in Cyrus' place, spending more time with Chanel. Sighing, he decides to wrap it up so he can go to sleep. Just as he's about to upload the photos to his cloud, so he can then delete them from his desktop, he finds his cloud empty. Stunned, he thinks it might be an error, but after attempting to access it again and again, Skylar realizes all of Chanel's photos are gone. Right then, he receives a message that makes his eyes go wide. Someone anonymous is asking if he was the one who took a certain photo. To Skylar's horror, it's a picture of Chanel that he snapped secretly and saved to his cloud. And what's worse, the unknown number reveals he has the rest of the pics as well. Skylar's heart races in fear as he wonders how he should respond to the texts. Eventually, he asks who they are, and though the message is read, he doesn't receive a response. Skylar frets, wondering how this mess happened. He stares at Chanel's pic, remembering how it all started. A year ago, a first-year Skylar demanded his sister Ha-yeon to hand over the camera that she borrowed. She assured him that she was careful with it before showing off the pic she snapped during a K-pop concert. Ha-yeon fangirled over the picture, calling the guy in it super cute. Skylar didn't see the appeal, but Ha-yeon told him he wouldn't understand. She believes spending time on someone you like wasn't a waste, especially since she got something she can cherish. After she left, Skylar realized his sister didn't delete the pics from his laptop, and he was about to do it when he acknowledged that the photos she took were actually quite nice. Remembering her words, He thinks it would be nice to have photos of the person you like and instantly thinks of Chan-il. Flustered, he immediately banishes the thought and wonders why he thought of the guy. With reddened cheeks, an idea forms in his mind, and it's how his secret hobby started. The next day at school, Skylar is nervous, feeling reluctant to enter his classroom. He had waited all night for a response from the anonymous person, but he got none. He's afraid that perhaps news of his questionable hobby has spread all over the school, and he could already imagine all the harsh words his classmates would send his way. His panic thoughts are interrupted when someone taps his shoulder. He shrieks in fright, but it's only Cyrus who apologizes for scaring him. Skylar feels weak-kneed, but after a quick look around, his classmates seem to be only talking of mundane, everyday stuff. Cautiously, he enters and feels relieved upon reaching his desk without any incident. Later, during classes, Skylar wonders how the unknown person managed to access his cloud. He tries to think of ways to find out who the anonymous person is, but he comes up with nothing. At lunch, he refuses his friend's invitation to eat with them, too stressed about his current situation. Suddenly, the door opens, revealing Chan-il and Cirrus. The bright-haired guy greets Skylar, who's feeling quite guilty upon seeing the other's face. When Chan-il hears that he's skipping lunch, the former becomes concerned. Their conversation is interrupted when Skylar's phone gets a notification. It's the unknown person, sending another photo. Skylar feels dread, but fortunately, Chan-il and his friend are about to leave. Chan-il warmly bids Skylar goodbye, not knowing that his face is plastered all over the latter's phone screen. Skylar's hand shakes, his heart racing, as he questions himself why the anonymous person is harassing him. Suddenly, someone speaks up, commenting that Skylar doesn't seem to have a good poker face. Skylar looks up in fear as the person tells him to be careful unless he wants people to find out his secret hobby. The anonymous person turns out to be Cirrus, Chan-il's close friend. As Cirrus walks away, Skylar is shocked and horrified. Instantly, his imagination acts up, of Cirrus revealing to Chan-il that Skylar has been taking pictures of him secretly. Silently, Skylar curses, thinking it's probably what their class president would do, especially since he and Chan-il are close friends. He tries to come up with a plan before lunchtime is over. Skylar intends to buy Cirrus silence if he can. Later, while Cirrus is with his friends, Skylar swiftly and hilariously yanks him away, leaving Chan-il and the others bewildered at Cirrus' sudden disappearance. Skylar motions to Cirrus to be quiet before desperately asking the other guy to talk with him. Hesitantly, Cirrus agrees. After finding a deserted corner of the school, Skylar asks Cirrus if he's the person who's been sending him the messages. Instantly, the class president says yes before he's asked by Skylar where he got the photos. Cirrus reveals that while he was tidying up after computer class yesterday, he noticed that a computer was still on. To his surprise, he found folders with Chan-il's name. Currently, Cirrus apologizes for looking at the photos and deleting them without Skylar's permission, but he can't just let the matter slide easily. Skylar instantly says that he doesn't care that the files were deleted, and he begs Cirrus to keep the matter a secret. Cirrus looks uncertain before saying he can't, as Chan-il is his friend. Desperate, Skylar continues to beg, but Cirrus won't change his mind, only telling Skylar that Chan-il is sure to forgive him if he comes clean. As a last resort, Skylar falls to his knees, alarming Cirrus. With a shaky voice and a tearful face, Skylar promises to tell Chan-il himself about what he did, and he begs Cirrus not to tell anyone. Cirrus starts to feel bad, while Skylar promises to do anything the former wants as long as he keeps quiet. With furrowed brows, Sirius wonders why Skylar is so desperate and finally agrees not to tell anyone about the photos. Skylar looks up as Sirius gives him his word. The crying teen feels immensely grateful, so much so that he hugs Sirius. The class president only huffs as he pats Skylar's back. That night, Skylar feels light even though he's embarrassed that he cried in front of Sirius. He's determined to keep things quiet until he graduates, and eventually he falls asleep. Meanwhile, inside a lavish house, Sirius reads the text that Skylar just sent him, basically telling him that he's so grateful that he'll do anything that Sirius wants. Looking contemplative, Sirius remembers Skylar's tearful face before he suddenly bursts out laughing. Condescendingly, he calls Skylar an idiot. The next day at school, Skylar is greeted by Sirius, who then offers to help with what the former is doing. Skylar, who's cleaning up his locker, refuses the other guy's offer. Sirius cheerfully bids him goodbye, making Skylar nervous as he's not used to talking with the popular class president. Seeing the guy so friendly makes Skylar feel relieved. He's glad that it was Sirius out of everyone who found out about the photos. During PE, the class gets to have some free time, so Skylar decides to go to the toilets. As he's about to exit the restroom, he hears a familiar voice. He freezes up when he realizes it's Sirius. Even though he thinks there's no reason for him to hide, Skylar decides to wait a bit as he feels a bit awkward facing Sirius with his friends. Suddenly, the class president laughs, making his friends curious. With a mysterious air, he tells them that he just got himself a fun new toy yesterday thanks to Ciel. Immediately, Skylar feels tense upon hearing Ciel's name. He listens more closely and hears Sirius refuse to say anything about the toy as he had promised to keep it a secret. It dawns on Skylar that the class president must be talking about him. As Sirius' friends promise to keep it a secret as well, the guy reveals that he happened to see something super crazy just a few days ago. Skylar is horrified, realizing that Sirius is about to break his promise. He turns the knob just as Sirius reveals something completely unrelated. According to him, as Ciel had saved him on his phone as Game Noob, Sirius made a bet against him and won himself a new game skin, much to his friend's jealousy. The immensely tense Skylar slumps in relief, and while the guys outside are leaving, he regrets now more than ever taking Ciel's photos. As he's about to leave, he encounters Sirius outside. The guy has a strange expression on his face, which makes Skylar nervous. Suddenly, the class president smiles, revealing that he left his water bottle. Sirius invites Skylar to head back to the gym together. Skylar agrees, but he feels something is off. However, he just chalks it up to him feeling paranoid again. After lunch is over, Skylar tells his friends that he'll see them later as he had promised to help Ciel with his photos that day. After his quick exit, the remaining guys can't help but comment on how Skylar cares so much about Ciel. Meanwhile, the subject in question practically dashes to the place where he's going to meet Ciel, excited at the prospect of spending time alone with his crush. After a quick look around, he eventually spots Ciel, but there's someone beside him. Sirius. Skylar is flummoxed, and on top of that, there's a photo in Sirius' hand. The two are looking quite solemn, with Sirius seeming like he's comforting Ciel. The two suddenly look up, making Skylar flinch in fear. With panic in the forefront of his mind, Skylar turns around and is about to bolt when Ciel yells his name. Skylar freezes, rooted in place as Ciel rushes toward him. Huffing, he asks Skylar where he suddenly ran, but the latter is too spooked to give a proper reply. Suddenly, Ciel whips out a picture of a dog, revealing that it's Sirius' super cute pet Cotton Candy. Skylar is shocked and baffled as Channel goes on about how he loves dogs so much but he's allergic to them. He can only ask Sirius for a picture of cotton candy instead of meeting her. Skylar awkwardly laughs, still in total disbelief that they were looking so serious over a dog's photo. He can't help but be frustrated at getting such a scare, but outwardly, he only smiles at Chanil and agrees that cotton candy is cute. The bright haired guy calls Cirrus over and tells Skylar that his friend wants to watch them take photos. As Skylar doesn't immediately respond, Channel reveals that he already told Cirrus not to come, as he didn't want Skylar to be uncomfortable. But his friend insisted. Cirrus then speaks up, saying taking pics isn't as easy as he thought it would be, and since he had heard how great the other two are at taking photos, he wanted to tag along. Without much choice, Skylar agrees to let him watch, thinking it'll be okay. As he teaches the class president the basics, Sirius praises Skylar for being a top student and for being so talented to win a bunch of prizes at photo contests. Skylar blushes at his compliments, at a loss of what to say, while Sirius only smiles. Chanel approaches them, offering Sirius to use his camera. After a bit of practice, the class president takes the chance to snap a pic of Chanil, much to the other's surprise. He protests at having his photo taken, especially since the resulting pic isn't very flattering. Sirius is terribly amused, while Chanil heavily blushes. The class president tries showing Skylar the photo he took, but the latter refuses, making Sirius confused. He whispers to Skylar that he knows he wants to see it. After all, Skylar takes Chanel's pictures all the time. Skylar's thoughts drifted to the time when Sirius forgot his water bottle in the washroom. Back then, he was already feeling unsettled. He had several questions he wanted to ask the guy, like why Sirius went through his cloud photos, why he didn't immediately reveal it was him that night he sent the texts, why Sirius sent him Chanel's photo when he was talking to the guy, and why Sirius wasn't surprised at all when they ran into each other in the restroom, as if he knew Skylar was there. However, Skylar ended up not asking him anything, afraid that if he does, Sirius will shatter their promise. Like a fool, he hadn't realized from the beginning that it was all a deliberate trick. Currently, Sirius tries to arouse a response from Skylar, who finally has had enough. His explosive reaction stuns Sirius, but seeing Skylar looking upset has him secretly pleased. Playing innocent, he apologizes, saying he thought Skylar would find Chanel's pic funny too. He returns the camera to his friend, concluding that he should take a look at some good pictures first before taking them. Slyly glancing at Skylar's camera, he proposes to have Skylar show him past photos he already took. Immediately, Skylar thinks it's a mistake to let Sirius tag along with him. He now knows that the guy had no intention of keeping a secret from the very beginning. At the moment, he's unsure if he had already deleted Chanel's pics from his camera, making him nervous. If he refuses Sirius, he knows the other guy will conclude that there are photos in there that Skylar doesn't want to show them. But if he agrees, and they end up seeing one of Chanel's photos, it'll be over for him. Shakily, Skylar refuses, saying there's nothing worth seeing in his camera. He hopes that Sirius will just let it go, but the other guy only huffs and doesn't relent. Skylar is frustrated and is about to hand it over when Chanel gives his own camera to Sirius, surprising the two. He states that since Skylar doesn't want to show his photos, Sirius should just look at his pics, leaving his friend unsatisfied. Skylar is relieved, while Sirius clicks his tongue in annoyance. He shoves Chanel's camera back to him, saying he's not at all interested in his poorly taken photos. When the bell rings, he abruptly decides to leave, making Chanel curious as to why Sirius is suddenly mad. Remembering he has PE after lunch, Chanel hurries to leave as well. Now alone, Skylar can't help but be mad at what Sirius is putting him through. Immediately, he rushes towards Sirius and calls his name, making the other guy pause. Skylar grabs Sirius' collar, confronting him about his troubling actions. Sirius merely looks at him and shakes Skylar's hands off. He reveals that he went through all the photos yesterday, commenting that Skylar must have been taking Channel's photos for a long time. He states that he found one very annoying detail. He already knows that Skylar is into Channel, but seeing himself cut off in all of the photos made him angry. Shamelessly, Sirius states that, objectively speaking, he's more attractive than Channel. He raises the camera to Skylar's face and smiles cockily, which only earns him a glare from the other guy. Amused, Sirius tells him to relax, assuring him that he hasn't told anyone about Skylar's secret. He tells the other guy to consider the photo he took as a gift. He leaves first, saying it'll look weird if they go in at the same time. Exhausted emotionally, Skylar slumps against the wall, at a loss for what to do. Meanwhile, Sirius is cheerful, humming to himself as he apologizes silently to Skylar. He didn't mean to be harsh on the guy, but Skylar is making things interesting for him. Sirius figures the guy will just have to put up with him. On a weekend, Skylar is happily studying by himself, feeling quite at peace that he doesn't have to see Sirius. Remembering the other guy's arrogant words, he can't help but scoff, dreading that he'll have to see him again next week. Deciding to focus on his midterms, it's then that he notices that he's yet to submit his class trip consent form. Last week, during classes, their homeroom teacher announced that they were going to have a class trip next month. Opting out was not an option at all, and he instructed them to form groups. He left Sirius in charge of it, who then proceeded to smile charmingly at everyone. Remembering that moment, Skylar mockingly imitates the class president before ripping his consent form in a fit of anger. Immediately, he regrets his actions as he still needs to turn the paper in. Next week, the photo club convenes. As club president, Skylar assigns his members to take photos during their respective class trips. Later, they're cleaning the club room when Skylar volunteers to help Channel take out the trash. Afterward, the taller guy feels quite grateful as he's quite bad at sorting recyclables. Skylar doesn't mind at all, finding that side of Channel quite cute. On their way back, Channel reveals he's looking forward to the class trip, and he even signed up for the talent show. Confidently, he reveals he's going to sing in a band, which makes Skylar quite excited to hear. He asks who's going to be the other members, so Channel starts listing out his friends. When he mentions that Sirius refused to join them, Skylar is taken aback, imagining the guy joining a talent show doesn't fit his image at all. Now that they're talking about him, Skylar figures this is the perfect chance for him to ask Channel about Sirius. After prodding him a bit, Channel reveals that his friend had always hated attention since they were younger. Skylar then asks what Sirius was like when he was in middle school, and after a moment of thinking, Channel states that Sirius is the same in middle school as he is now. According to him, his friend is still super nice, never says anything mean, and is always very polite with adults. Skylar, hearing all these praises for the same annoying guy who's been giving him trouble, can't help but think that Channel must be talking about someone else. Figuring the bright-haired guy doesn't know anything about the real Sirius, Skylar merely suggests that they should get going now, not knowing that his inquiry is making Channel curious. That night, when Sirius returns home, he sees his dog being leashed by the maid. Appalled, he rushes to snatch the leash from the woman, who becomes nervous at his presence. Suddenly, a voice reveals it was her who told the maid to tie up the dog. A woman raises a shoe, saying it got completely ruined by the dog. Sirius merely snorts in laughter, saying the shoe suits her way better now that they look like shabby rags. The woman is furious, And the situation is made worse when Sirius bumps into her and threatens to make her regret it if she touches his dog again. In a fit of anger, she throws the shoe at Sirius, who also gets furious. The woman is completely unrepentant, saying it's only right to discipline not only a misbehaving dog but also its owner. Sirius scoffs at the fact that she's playing lady of the house and tells her to leave now that she's mooched enough from his father. The woman claims she isn't after his money, but Sirius doesn't believe her at all. At school, Sirius starts listing who belongs in what group for the class trip. After looking at the paper, he realizes there are still some guys who aren't on the list yet, including Skylar. He wonders if the guy has anyone to form a group with, and realizes that he doesn't remember him hanging out with anyone from class. From what he can recall, the one guy that always hangs around Skylar only does so to borrow his stuff. Sirius believes that it's better to be alone than have friends like that. His thoughts about Skylar are interrupted when someone calls him over. Later, Sirius blatantly says he'll leave, but his friends beg him not to go, needing his help to deal with Ciel, who's determined to sing at the talent show. Sighing, Sirius relents, grumbling about why Ciel is making a big fuss about the whole thing. Currently, they're in the photography club's room. Ciel reveals they're not supposed to be there, but he got permission from his club president. Knowing about Skylar's feelings for Ciel, Sirius tells him he's cruel for taking advantage of the guy, but his friend doesn't get it, only saying that he'll make sure the club room remains clean. Hilariously, Sirius points out their friend who has his feet on the desk, earning a scolding from Ciel. The said friend glares at Sirius, who doesn't give an F at all. As it's his first time inside the room, Sirius takes a look around. Flipping through a photo book, he finds a picture of a gloomy-looking Skylar when he's still in his first year. He abruptly asks Ciel why Skylar is a club president, pointing out that Skylar barely speaks up in front of other people. Ciel stares at him curiously before asking if something is going on between him and Skylar, making Sirius flinch at his accurate intuition. When he immediately says no, Ciel reveals that Skylar had asked about him days ago, but they didn't talk about anything special. Still, it piques Sirius' interest. Later, Skylar's so-called friend bothers him again about borrowing his gym clothes, and, as usual, Skylar relents. Suddenly, Sirius cuts in, wanting to talk to Skylar. The guy tenses, immediately wary, and he pushes his friend to leave. Nervously, he turns to Sirius, who starts talking about the groups for the class trip. He's assigned Skylar to Group 6, which the other finds no problem with. While he's relieved that their topic is quite safe, Sirius, on the other hand, is staring at him, remembering the old picture he found. To Skylar's surprise, Sirius pensively offers to return the photos he took from Skylar's cloud. After classes, a suspicious Skylar follows Sirius, wondering what the other guy is up to. He really believes that the other guy won't just easily give up the photos to him, considering how he's been behaving so far. However, recalling Sirius' expression earlier, it does seem like he isn't messing with him this time. Still, Skylar is determined to stay on his toes so he can finally put an end to all of this. Later, upon finally arriving at Sirius' place, Skylar is stunned to see that the other guy is living in a super fancy mansion. The place is huge, and they even have a maid too. Feeling quite unnerved, Skylar excuses himself to the bathroom, where he proceeds to panic quite a bit. He's totally stunned that Sirius' family is rich, and he starts thinking that he might not have a chance against the guy. He thinks that if he messes with Sirius, he might end up bound and carried out by men in suits. After a moment, he finally starts to calm down, and he reminds himself that Sirius hasn't done anything yet. When he enters Sirius' room, Skylar notices Cotton Candy. The dog is so cute that Skylar momentarily forgets his situation, especially after touching her soft fur. He starts baby talking at Cotton Candy before freezing up when he realizes that Sirius is looking at him judgingly. Embarrassed, Skylar immediately demands for Sirius to return the photos, but as expected, The guy has an ulterior motive. Sirius states that he didn't mean to keep Skylar's secret and was intending to tell Chanel right away, but he changed his mind. He reminds Skylar of the text message he sent him before, particularly about the part where Skylar swore to do anything Sirius wanted, while Skylar instantly regrets promising something like that. Sirius proposes to delete the photos he took whenever Skylar does something he wants. Skylar, without much choice, agrees with the arrangement. Sirius is pleased and even starts deleting some pics since Skylar came all the way to his house. Sirius states that if Skylar doubts him, he's free to see him delete the pics every time. Though Skylar doesn't trust him, he tells Sirius it's fine. Just then, Cotton Candy catches Sirius' attention. He turns away as he goes on about how trust is the most important thing in a deal. He assures Skylar that he never breaks his promises, only to be shocked that the other is gone, as well as the flash drive containing all of Chanel's pics. Outside Sirius' room, Skylar dashes away. Will he successfully escape with a flash drive? And this is how this segment of the manhwa ends. Guys, this is one of my favorite manhwas at the moment. The art style is stunning and there's character development. Though it's a bit of a slow burn, the journey is worth it. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching.